You've scrolled past a face today that isn't real, too smooth, a little too symmetrical, and for a second, you genuinely couldn't tell. What did your brain miss? Your brain has spent its entire existence being good at exactly one thing, spotting a face. It's the first shape a newborn locks onto. It should be the last thing that fools you. There's an older feeling sitting right next to that confusion, though. Not confusion, dread. The specific, skin-crawling sense that something is almost human, and that almost is the problem. Humans have been building almost people for longer than you think. Dolls, death masks, wax figures, animatronics, every culture, every era, and at some threshold, the dread shows up every time. Named in 1970, studied in infants by 2012. Some blame disease, some blame a fear of death. Nobody agrees. They all found the same trapdoor, and right now, it's opening wider than it ever has. In 1970, a Japanese roboticist named Masahiro Mori published a single graph in an obscure journal called Energy. On one axis, how human something looks. On the other, how much you like it. The line climbs. A toy robot is charming. A humanoid robot is more charming still. Then, right before fully human, it collapses. Mori drew two lines, not one, a gentler curve for things that stay still, a steeper one for things that move, since movement drags the dip even lower. On the moving curve, at the very bottom, below the robots, below the puppets, he placed two examples, a zombie and a corpse. He put them there in 1970. Before a single study existed to justify it. He was simply describing where the fear already lived. Mori called the Dip Bukimi no Tani, the Valley of Eeriness. English translators, decades later, gave it the name that stuck, the Uncanny Valley. It sat ignored for 35 years, until researchers Carl McDorman and Takashi Minato finally translated it in 2005. And robotics labs, animation studios, and psychologists all realized they'd been staring at the same cliff the whole time, from different sides. But here's what should bother you. Mori named a feeling. He didn't explain it. And the feeling is older than his graph by 64 years. Older still, if you keep digging. In 1906, a German psychiatrist named Ernst Jentsch wrote an essay describing a specific unease, the one you get around wax figures, automatons, anything that mimics life without living. Freud picked up the thread in 1919 in an essay called Das Unheimliche, the uncanny. His answer, these things unsettle us because they resemble something familiar that's been made strange. Go back further, and the fear was already old. Greek myth gave Crete a bronze giant named Talos, who patrolled the coastline hurling boulders at invaders, built by the god Hephaestus, who also forged golden servants that moved and breathed. Jewish folklore has the golem, shaped from clay and animated by sacred words. Different centuries, different gods. The same fear of the almost person. So this was never a robotics problem. Robots just gave scientists something to finally measure. The feeling was there first, waiting for thousands of years for a name. And once you start looking, it's everywhere. Animators call it the Polar Express problem. The 2004 film's photorealistic child characters tested so badly with early audiences that creepy became the word critics reached for first, before anything about the story. Wax museums have quietly known this for over a century. The most technically perfect figures are often moved to dim corners because visitors linger less, not to more. Different fields, different decades, different materials, bronze, wax, rendered pixels. Same cliff. Here's the part that should really unsettle you. You didn't learn this reaction. You were born with it, or close to it. In 2012, researchers David Lukowich and Asif Ghazanfar tested 57 infants at Princeton, publishing their results in biology letters. They showed babies real photographs of their mother, real photographs of strangers, and digitally morphed faces blending the two. The infants looked away from the blended faces. Not the strangers, not their mothers, the in-between. A brain too young to hold a spoon already knew, to flinch from almost. That means the Uncanny Valley isn't culture. It isn't movies or bad CGI teaching you what to fear. It was running before you had a single memory to blame it on. So what is it actually protecting you from? Two theories, and neither one is comfortable. The first, disease. Scientists call it the behavioral immune system. Reflexes built to spot infection before it touches you. Wrong skin tone, asymmetry, movement a fraction of a second off. A 2025 study by Esther Dieckhoff and colleagues at the University of Hamburg, published in Scientific Reports, found that looking at uncanny, almost human faces didn't just discuss participants. It measurably activated their immune response. Their bodies began preparing for infection that was never there. The second theory is worse. In 2005, researcher Carl McDorman ran an experiment borrowed from terror management theory. The psychology of what happens to your mind when it's forced to confront death. He didn't show subjects coffins or graveyards. He showed them androids. The reaction was the same as confronting mortality directly. His conclusion: near human faces remind your brain, beneath language, of a corpse. Something that should be alive and isn't. He found the effect strongest in people already primed toward anxiety about death, and weakest in people who'd made a kind of peace with dying. Disease, or a rehearsal for your own funeral. Take your pick. Your brain apparently runs both simulations at once, just in case. Which means every doll that made you step back, every Android demo that got called wrong in the comments, every video game face your brain refused to accept as human, has been quietly testing you for sickness and reminding you that you will die in the same half-second glance. You were never overreacting to a face on your screen. You were running 50,000 years of triage. And this is the part that should sit with you longer than the rest. For most of human history, the valley was narrow and rare. A death mask, a particularly lifelike doll, something you might encounter once, maybe twice, in a lifetime. You now cross it dozens of times before lunch. Every scrolled face that makes you pause and squint. Every video call with a filter half a frame too smooth. Every AI-generated stranger built to be liked, not to be honest. Your ancient triage system, built for the rare wax figure, the rare corpse, is now firing constantly. Against a flood of almost people, it was never built to process. And here's the part that should genuinely worry you. In 2022, researchers Sophie Nightingale and Hani Farid, publishing in PNAS, found that AI-synthesized faces weren't just passing as real anymore. People rated them as more trustworthy than actual photographs of actual people. The valley has a flaw. Mori always said the line climbs back out the other side, toward things so perfectly human you'd accept them fully. We may have already climbed out and brought your ancient alarm system with us, now aimed at faces that were never lying to your eyes, only to the part of you built to trust them. Nobody has agreed on whether we've climbed out of the valley or whether it just got wider to match what we're capable of building. You'll know before the researchers do. You'll know the next time a face stops your thumb mid-scroll and some ancient, wordless part of you leans in to check, alive or not, and for one uncomfortable second can't tell.